The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, here I am again, and I hope that this won't be close to the last of the programs. I've given my notice, as you know, and will depend on the mail whether it keeps going beyond the time of my cancellation. But tonight, I want to talk about salvation and the meaning of it. There's really much to say. As a matter of fact, there's not a lot to say, but it's hard to say it, because you're talking about a little tiny, tiny, tiny experience. So tiny, like a little grain of mustard seed, very tiny, but it contains the nucleus of everything you could be if you could find that little seedling, that nucleus. And, I know many of you have come from Christian denominations and you've had salvation preached to you until you're blue in the face. You had Jesus shoved down your ears as though your brains was a big sausage skin. And you've had Jesus up to here, I think, and many of you have rejected religion. The very religion that could have saved you, you've rejected. Very often religion is peopled by, the bats get into the belfry, just like communism getting into our honored institutions, school, and taking over the country behind the facade behind this facade of established traditions. That's what I was looking for. Sometimes words escape me, but they can do their dastardly thing in the name of religion, in the name of institutions which are honored. We start hearing strange things. And I think the bats got into the belfry as far as religion is concerned. And I know that you people have been sort of sorely tried by that sort of thing, because your common sense has been afflicted. And you couldn't buy it. And you went off half-cocked, rebelling, going to drink, drugs, going to Hinduism, whatever it is you went to, looking ever since. And tonight, perhaps we can find out exactly what salvation is. There is on my morning program, on my radio program this morning, I said that there is a Christian belief, a certain pseudo-Christian belief, that Jesus, you can't be perfect, and that he saves you from consequences, but you can sin, because nobody can't sin. Only Jesus was the only person who never sinned. And this is insanity. This is pure insanity, because I don't know what he came for if he didn't come to save us from having to sin. Our problem is, surely your problem is, that whatever sin is, drinking, gluttony, rape, sex, stealing, whatever the sin is, surely you don't want to do it anymore. You just can't go on sinning and saying, well, Jesus, it's okay if I sin. It's not a sin because he saves me from consequences. And then you appreciate, you thank him after you've stolen something, after you raped the lady next door. I'm taking it a little bit far, you understand. Then you feel like you have no conflict and no conscience because it's all right, he's made it all right. Now that sort of salvation is very dangerous, because that salvation is a form of addiction. It permits you to do wrong. Then it lets you have the illusion that the wrong is okayed. And then if that's okay, that's a license to do something else wrong. And your life will fall apart, your kids will be on dope. You're not a credible person. No, not to my way of thinking. I can't buy that. And when I say to people, there's something terribly wrong with that, you get from those types of Christians that you're a devil. It's the first thing they tell you, that you're a devil, that you're against Christ. And nothing could be further than the truth, and you have to withstand an assault verbal assault from these people. Now tonight, I want to help you to dispel some of those myths and to pull you out of the cult of that sort of thing if you happen to be in it. Because after all, isn't that an addiction to allow you to sin and then to say that Christ has saved you from the consequences of sin? What other things can you think of that does that? Alcohol saves you from the consequences of sin. You can sin and you can drink and then you feel relieved from the consequences of it. And then it sets you up to do it all over again. That is the basis of cultic Christianity. And it works that way. And it has an opiate effect. That's what the communists think of religion. Religious people being that way, that they said that Lenin said, religion is the opiate of the people, and it can be. It's not supposed to be, but when religion is misused and misunderstood and perverted for the sake of power, then we have an opiate effect. Now, I think it's a good idea if we would, you won't let me lecture to you, but perhaps you would like me to explain to you by virtue of you asking questions some of your misunderstandings, and then maybe as a result of, well, spending the next 2.5 hours, 5 sessions, 5 half-hour sessions, we can arrive at the problem of exactly what is salvation. Do I have a lady, please stand up? Could you stand?
I can
Thank you.
understand when you're saying that, when it's been taken to the extreme with regard to a false addiction to the religion. But if it's a personal relationship with your Creator and through the mirror of Christ, can it not also be that you fall so much in love with the principles that He taught that you do not want to hurt Him? You know how you say if you love your father,
I'm missing out on something here.
All right. In other words, there's two types of fear. Fear that you're going to get caught in doing something that you did that was wrong, or a kind of fear that's filial.
Yes, but I'm talking about salvation.
But in other
How
words,
does that?
All right, if you have, if a person has a personal relationship with Christ or their Heavenly Father, combination of it, wouldn't that lead to a sensitivity of conscience, so that if you had a problem, say, of stealing before, now an inner voice would prevent that from occurring?
Oh, yeah, of course, but I don't see that as a very heavy question. It doesn't bring very much out of me.
In other words, my impression of what
You're
said,
making a statement and giving an answer. You're giving an answer.
well, my impression of what you said is that the Christianity, in the form that it has taken in the present day, is a license to do anything.
Exactly, that's what I've been saying.
And what I'm saying is, true, that can be taken that way, and we've all.
But it
seen
nearly
it.
always is. That's the trouble. It nearly always is Christianity, in other words, the whole idea, for instance, I have been quoted as saying in newspapers and Christians themselves that Roy Masters doesn't sin. And they laugh and they make such fun of this. Not only do the Christians make fun of it, but the media makes fun of it. I mean, who's perfect? I mean, this man, and he says he's perfect. No, I have never said that I was perfect. I'm saying there's a process of becoming perfect, or you're becoming imperfect. See? And I'm saying that there's two types of salvations. One for the imperfectly perfecting, and those who are perfectly perfecting. Do you know how I said that? Because you can make what is imperfect perfect. Everybody will hear people say, well, you can't be perfect. Then I'd have to really cross-examine that individual and say, well, what do you mean, what's perfect? What are you talking about, perfect? See, that I can't be it. What is it that I can't be perfect? And they don't even know what they're talking about. To them, it's just a buzzword, you can't be perfect. As if to say, it's okay to be imperfect. And if it's okay to be imperfect, you've bought a false salvation. You've bought a salvation. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay. It's all right. And you can keep being all right, keep going that way, because it's okay to be. Nobody can be perfect. Just keep going the way. It's a saving idea, isn't it? It relieves you, doesn't it?
In other words, that gives you the license not to observe your behavior enough to begin to want to change it, or at least to ask for the grace to change it when you do see that you have done
No,
something wrong.
in my way of thinking is that I don't want to be subject. I don't want to be subject to what we understand as temptation. The temptation to steal, the temptation to look at somebody else's wife, you know, the temptation to eat too much, the temptation for avarice, to be ambitious, to have dark thoughts, you know, to be angry and hateful. I like to be the opposite of these things, because I know that unless I can practice the opposite, I'll never be opposite, will I? But I've got to be saved from that opposite. I've got to be I can't save myself. I can't drive with the brakes on. I know that I'm born subject to these forces through no fault of my own. See? But it is a fault of my own if I continue to allow myself to be influenced them and excuse them and not seek salvation from them. And I do believe, I've proved it in my own life, that there is a salvation. There is a way of not obeying your lower nature. There is a way. There is no question about it. But I think those dark alien forces, like the bats in the belfry that I quoted a few moments ago, those sort of communist type of infiltration has got into religion and has now turned it around and is justifying people. So they think they're saved. Yes.
There's a blinding of that though that one must come to.
Is it hot? Is it sun shining in here or something?
No. There's as a matter of fact, I was getting a little warm. There's
Is this in the synagogue? You know.
I'm not Jewish. No religion at all, really. Is it because some people cannot see it because through the conditioning of the justification of that wrong of the religion that they were brought up in?
Restate the question.
Is it a possibility that people are blinded to their way of being of their religion?
Well, I think that many of us have been brought up under religious doctrination and have been corrupted to use the excuses of that doctrination to excuse our way of life. And it becomes very comforting to be able to do wrong. Well, it's like, for instance, you know what it's like yourself, is to do something wrong and take a drink and get a little comfort, right? And well, religion does the same thing. You can do wrong and get a little comfort at church, right?
Yeah.
See,
exactly.
so that's it. In other words, there are two types of salvations. What you have to do is realize there are two types of salvations. One for the ego, save face. Save me from seeing my shame. Ah, what a relief. You can do that with drinking. You can do that with being caught up in some religious leader identifying with the leader. You can do that by involving yourself with the personality and leaving behind a sense of shame and garnering for yourself a sense of virtue about what you are. But that's a very dangerous course to follow, because sooner or later you're going to get into big trouble, very big trouble, because it sets you on the course of getting into bigger and bigger trouble and taking refuge in your religion. Now, see, people have to be into something. See, the human spirit is designed to grow from flowing in and out of a spirit. How do I say that any clearer than that? Let me see if I can try to enhance that remark.
I understood.
You know what I mean?
I understood.
Have you ever seen a girl and a boy walking down the street flowing into each other? Or do you know what it's like to have someone flow into you and you flow into them and you feel like you're in a little paradise? Isn't that what the man-woman thing is, when man in his unhappiness and woman in her unhappiness, when they come together, there's a sort of a union. But it's more than just a union. It's like the sperm and the ova, when they come together, separately, nothing, not too much. They have potential. Come together, all of a sudden one flows into the other, and all of a sudden life begins to take form. A possibility, endless possibilities. After the child is born, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Well, I see that union with the spiritual father within, but I also see substituting. I see substitution with external things. That you can see that with man and woman. Man sort of getting lost in a woman losing herself in a man, and creating some kind of illusion, some kind of, well, reassurance, almost a salvation. Now, if that salvation is for the ego, anytime you can flow into a person, and something that person flows into you. Anytime you get caught up in something, does that make sense, the word caught up? I wonder if you can understand, pardon? Caught up into. And so you get into it. Somehow you seem to flow into it. And something of that sort of becomes flowing into you. And I have not experienced this myself. Most of you people have experienced this because somehow your conditioning has been such that this has been your upbringing, and this is the illusion that most of you come from, this conditioning of your religion, and so that does blind you. This sort of thing does blind you to any other possibilities except the ego reinforcement, which is, in its own merit, a form of salvation. It is almost like there are some people who are so weak and so psychotic, if you like, that they get caught up with anything, no matter what. They get caught up with people, places, things. They're always caught up in something different, and something different is in them, and they are into something different, and they feel like, wow, this is a transcending experience. Man, I'm really going somewhere. I'm becoming complete. I found something. Can anyone describe it better than that? Yeah, go ahead. Describe it. Help me, because I've never been there.
When I was a little boy, I got lost. I don't know how it ever started, but first of all, I started smoking cigarettes, which started with a couple of friends, and I really got lost into it. I used to smoke, and it's like everything would shut off, and everything would be glorious, like.
See, that's it. I never smoked.
It's all right now. But then after a while, it would stop, it got old, and then I started sniffing paint. And then when I started sniffing paint, it was the same thing, but it was a blank, everything's all right, and I was in some weird world. And then from paint, it went to...
Can I stop you there, though?
Sure.
I mean, I know that you go into other cocaine and stuff like that, right?
And all the way to everything.
See, but this is a high, and something flows into you, give you an illusion that you are something that you're not. And this high is almost like a religious experience, even if it's cocaine and paint. And it is a salvation. It's what it is. It is salvation for the ego.
You fall in love with
it? Oh yeah, you love it. You crave it because it in you is you, and the only way you can be more of you, which is very prideful and very glorious and very right and never wrong. It's always a very right and never wrong. Part of that caught upness, isn't that right?
What it is that I didn't know for a long time. But one thing that I did know ever since I was a little boy is I knew that there was a father. And the thing is that I always tried to... I always wanted to find him, And somewhere along the line I lost it, and I forgot, and I just... I lost him for a few years, and then I started coming out of service and getting all messed up even more, but I still knew that he was real, and even in all my drugs and everything, I used to cry out to him and ask him to save me. And then I never lost it for a long time, and after all those drugs and everything, somehow it just started getting answers and stuff, because I tried everything. I tried Christianity, I tried I didn't go into all that Buddhism and stuff because somewhere in my heart I knew it wasn't right. And so I tried Christianity, and that didn't do it for me. And I kept keeping a belief, and eventually I found out about you, and I've never, it clicked. Something clicked, and I started getting better and better, you know, as the years went on. And it's
But you see what I know, the gentleman's name's Larry. I call you Larry because I know you by first name. But you see, Larry's discovering something, see. He's never been, see, I've known that Larry for a long time, and he's been in trouble for a long time, haven't you?
yes.
And I've been keeping an eye on you. I'd have to I can't stop you, couldn't stop you. I just wait for you, and whenever you need advice, and I give it to you, and give you a little kick up the butt once in a while, right? A little friendly kick up
Advice.
the rear end, yeah. But see, you had to exhaust all your possibilities. We all have to. We're all looking for something. Our ego, you know, we're half ego, part good, part evil, and the part of us that's come from the darkness, that seeks the salvation of the darkness. You know how I say that? You don't have to draw your picture, do it? It's the pleasures, the drugs, the music, all the excitements that flow into us, that we flow into it. But it's a game of death, really. See, because we are paying. In other words, there's got to be this communication between with the loved, the lover, and the beloved. There's got to be, like the same as, and by examining the dark side, we could also understand what's going on the other side, because the same thing in reverse.
You know
It's
what's
the
funny
same
though?
thing in reverse, isn't it?
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is, from my experience, I didn't have no control over the matter. All it was is that it turned into such an automatic, unconscious
yes, of course.
thing that even though I wanted the Father, even from my heart, and I knew that He was real, and used to cry out to Him, I was hell-bound, and I was killing myself, and I didn't see and I didn't know, but yet I recognized that, hey, I'm going to die one day. If it wasn't for all the jails, going to jail every year and everything, I would have probably been dead already.
So even the jail was
Even
a
the
benefit.
jail was a
Sanctuary, yeah.
sanctuary for me, because every time I got in jail, I started practicing meditation every day. I got better and better and better. Today, I wouldn't have stood up today right now. Even there was a little fear inside of me, you know, even to, hey, don't get up, you know, hey, it's not there anymore. I can see that thing within me now.
Well,
and it's
but
losing its ground.
Larry, what do you think? Look, I've known you a number of years. I know you're suffering, and I know your mom. What is it today that makes you? I've always seen that little brightness in you. You know, I've always seen it in you,
Yes, you told me.
and I've always told you. I said one day you'd be all right. But what is it different today? Because I sense something different now. Something's changed in you. What do you think caused that change? What makes you have more control over yourself now as opposed to last week, a month ago? When you-
Because now, from the way that I see it, it's I've went through a lot.
Of
I've
pain.
been through a lot.
Why did you have to go through all that pain, Larry?
Because
Why did you have to do that?
I had to be stomped down, crushed out, and
To prove what? To prove something. What is
prove
to prove
that
what? To prove that the lie lied. See, there's a
exactly. Because I was saying,
The lie
yeah,
lied.
the other day when I first heard your tape, the teacher within.
yeah.
I found out that I didn't know this before. There's something inside of me which I didn't know. The lie is lying, and that thing's still living inside
But you
of
used
me.
to believe it. It always helped. you.
Whenever I smoked weed, I used to be afraid. I couldn't smoke weed because something I recognized something in there, you know, and I didn't like it, so I never smoked it that
But
much.
we're going to go off. We're going to go off the air. So in just a few moments. So if you could sit down for a second,
Okay.
I'll just finish off this segment. I just want to say, I don't mean to cut you off, Larry. But that's the secret, because you see, there's something about the lie that seems like the truth. And it seems like the truth so long as there's any vestige of ego, ambition left in us to be God. What is the original sin? What is the fall of man from which we need to be saved? Isn't it pride that precedes the failing? Pride goeth before the fall. Isn't that right? And isn't there a spirit of lie, or a spirit somewhere lurking outside us and then within us that keeps talking to us and keep discouraging us from going straight, being virtuous, like there's no future and there's no fun in it? What's the use? God doesn't love you. It's always providing us with a new hope to live longer in our state of pride. It's like a turn of the die. It's like somewhere around the corner is that experience we're always looking for to help us make this forbidden estate. Do you know what I'm trying to say? There's always some mystical, we're always living in hope for that one marvelous moment. We think it's just around the next corner, maybe the next corner. Maybe, yeah, a lot of corners, right? And it offers that kind of hope, see? And it keeps saving us, putting off salvation. We keep putting it off. And it takes so many of those experiences, for some people more than others. It just takes so many of those experiences for us to discover that the lie lies. And when we discover that, we've discovered the truth, right alongside it. Now we begin to be ready to accept that truth, but not before that time, because we're still involved with the lie which holds up hope that we could be what no person should be. All right? Now, there's the meditation that Larry was talking about. It's a way of, well, shortcutting that process. If you have understood so far, you might want to sit quietly and meditate and separate from the part of you that you're lost in. Most people are lost in their thoughts and their feelings. And well, I haven't got time to make a little sales spiel. The information will be on the screen in just a few moments. Support our broadcast if you like this kind of material. This is more sobering talk today. And support our program with your contributions, tax deductible, and get the meditation to teach you how to find that inner peace. Thanks for listening, and join us in our next broadcast.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program. My name is Roy Masters, and we're talking about salvation. And what I'd like to do is, in a non-preachy way, get to the bottom of this thing called salvation, because it's not such a high and mighty esoteric experience as you think. Just like faith. I mean, faith, when you hear preachers talk, is, well, some way out of space, unattainable, something or other we have to have. And we have to pretend like we've got it in order to have it. You know, and I can tell you what faith is very simply. It's simply common sense. Does that do it for you, or is it a little disappointing? I mean, listen to your common sense. You're born with an intuition. And if it could be said that I have a religion to be called anything, it would be intuitionalism or intuitionism, which is simply a religion that's governed, a self that's governed by the self that gives me knowing. Now what is that but faith and trust and a bond between the Creator and its created? Keep it simple. You know, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. But they make it very complicated because big business keeping religion complicated. So tonight I want to talk about keeping religion simple. You know, what do we need to be saved from? Does anybody know what on earth do we need to be saved from? Because you have to really understand what we're into. And we did, in our last session, we did talk about how the ego flows. it flows into something which loves it. And something which loves it, the love of that something flows out into that person and constitutes a self. And a self that it slowly becomes addicted. In order to exist, it has to flow into that love. It has to submit, flow into it, and flow out of it a renewed being. And that experience can be found almost anywhere. Music, dancing, cocaine, sex, anything. You could even do it in your mind. It's a flowing and it's a false paradise. A reassurance is that right is wrong. It's a reverse of the order of the kingdom. But pridefulness is made out of the reverse order of the kingdom, and it's no wonder you suffer. Because you will always love that which is against nature to love. Although it will be seen by you to be part of loving nature. It would be seen from your point of view, egotistical point of view, as unnatural not to love it. You know what, like I've heard people say, well, they say, what do you do? I said, I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't do those things. I said, what are you living for? Have you heard people say that to you? Yeah. And I said, well, what the hell are you living for? See, it seems to me just as stupid from my point of view as it is from their point of view. Yes, this lady here, now we got something going. Got something going now, have we?
Yeah, just when you brought that up too. I'm in total confusion about this sinning no more and becoming perfect. I realize that is what has to happen.
Isn't that what Christ said to the woman that he healed? He says, go on your way and sin no more?
Yeah. The problem is being perfect. What is being perfect? I've heard you say before that, like, you could take a smoke
and not be affected by it.
Right. And
you couldn't addict me to cocaine. You couldn't give it to me.
But you didn't sin there.
No, I didn't sin.
I mean, you could even try pot.
I could smoke pot right in front of you and not sin, right?
And not sin.
But the point is, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I could just show you that's not addicting. It wouldn't be wise for me to do it, you understand?
I mean, to me, that's almost like saying, well, you can try this, but as long as you don't get in...
I won't do it.
Okay.
I won't do it to prove a point. I just know. Let's say you had to give me cocaine for I had an accident and you had to give it to me. I wouldn't become addicted to it.
Yeah.
As a medicine or something, you know. No, because my nature is not composed of what it has to offer. Therefore, it's like oil and water. They don't mix. I am not compatible with what it offers. What you have to find is an incompatibility in the spirit with all the offerings of pride, or to pride, ego. You have to spend your life being egotistical to some extent to realize through pain what is wrong with what appears to be so natural. You see what I mean? Now you have to. Well, no, what is natural to the ego is unnatural to the natural man, the true real man. I mean, I'm not interested. I can't drink. I can't smoke. None of those things. The music, the sex. No, the sex still has some kind of very tiny, small pull. But the less I give into it, the less pull it has. The less pull it has, the more power I have over it. The more power over it, the more it ceases to, after a while, ceases to have any conditioning effect at all. But then I can apply the sex in a place where it's perfectly proper and not be guilty. But it doesn't have control over me. I'm not made through flowing into something and something flowing out of that experience to make me the man. Think I'm a man. And a total illusion based upon some sensual pleasure, which becomes then addicting and enslaving. You follow that? A man must govern his nature. But what is faith and what is salvation is, in other words, you have to listen to your common sense and start to flow from that common sense. And because unless you listen to that common sense, you can't be the creature of that common sense. I'm not sure if I made the point very well, but
I'm so confused. I think some of it is just being perfect.
Oh yes, that's
He's wanting to send me back to, Susan, you've got to be a good girl to be perfect.
But you can't be. Oh, I see. That's Catholic training, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
parents.
You have to be.
Methodist,
In other words,
but-
people setting. I know what people setting you up as they set you up to be perfect, to set up impossible form of
Yeah,
good
it's
which you
almost
can't
like
attain
I
to.
can never attain it.
Yes, as if you had to attain to it.
Mealy mouse to everyone and just don't say anything if they upset me. I just
Well, let me start off in the
Okay.
train of thought that you started off to say, and maybe we can work out a point from there. In some religions, for example, they will set up an impossible set of standards, which we call good,
Yeah.
to become perfect, which is completely unattainable, especially from an egotistical point of view, because nobody can attain to perfection from his own strength. It's like lifting yourself up by your bootstraps. You can't do it. The trouble is you're bound to fail. This is designed to make you fail and make you resign yourself to even trying harder. See? Exhorted by the egging of people who set those standards. And pretty soon you find yourself completely under the control because you start to feel guilty, you try hard, and then after a while you give up and you lose yourself in the love of that person. You let yourself be governed by the people. You actually throw your whole weight of your whole life on the people who've set those impossible standards because of yourself. You can't do it. Therefore, they invite you to love them and to accept that person as your God.
Or you get to a point where you just throw up your hand and say,
Yes.
I can't attain it, so
But very often you get so hopelessly confused that you tend to give up your own struggle and become completely reliant on the people who set those standards. Is that correct?
yes.
Go back to faith or common sense.
But look how that perfectly duplicates the process of true salvation with an inner God. See, because again it depends upon you whether other people have set these impossible standards or you've set your own goals. You can set them for yourself, you know. So the process is very much like on the inside as it should be on the outside. The struggle to become something you can never be, or to perfect your own life, the struggle to solve your own problems, and the realization that of yourself you can do nothing, you then tend to give up, let go, and let God. It's at this point of realization in your life, sometimes it's when you've sunk as far as you can go, that you realize that you haven't got it of yourself. And that which causes you to realize it is there as your Savior. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Does that make sense to everybody sitting here? It's a very, very similar process to what I described, the way churches operate, the way brainwashing operates. But it's on the inside. Now, let me just make one more point here, because it's a delicate one. That this giving up to that which makes you realize. You understand how I say that? You give up to that which makes you realize, whether it's on the outside or on the inside. Because a person can set impossible tasks for you and make you fail. And after a while you throw your whole salvation on that person and say, okay, I can't live my own life, you show me. That's what they're waiting for. Follow? All right, now, but there is also a very, very delicate process here which could really trip you up if I didn't bring it up at this point. That is to say, there's a certain way of giving up which can damn you or save you. And the way is this, that if you, that you spend your whole life trying to make your own life work and failing and creating bigger problems, and out of those bigger problems comes more challenge to try to solve the problems, and you struggle and eventually you got bigger ones, and the bigger ones create challenges, and the challenges challenge you because there's only you, because you're God. See, you got yourself involved with solving the problems of your universe. You follow that? Now, there comes a point in that time where the problems become so big that you struggle and you struggle and you struggle, and then you give in, because you give in to the problem. You give in to the spirit of that problem, which is waiting for you all the time. You can give yourself completely over to the devil. Who knows what I'm talking about? Because only after the struggle, when you're thoroughly worn out and exhausted, and you're in pain, will that kind of condition be ripe in your head to accept the dark side practically forever. There could be a point where you could not come back. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Now I'm going to continue the point after you've said your thing.
Okay. The only people...
Can you stand up?
Sure. You just described my whole life. My whole life is revolved around my mother and my sister, and I've spent my whole life struggling for one goal, to be free and independent of needing her.
But you
as
can't
my
do
God.
it.
I cannot do it.
You know why?
And I'm tired now.
And
I
now
don't
you're
wanna
ready
go
to
on
give
anymore.
in to them, aren't you?
I'm ready to give in.
See, and that's what they're waiting for.
I
Now,
know.
you want to give in, but I say to you, the truth in life is giving up. You either eventually give over to hell or heaven. Now, I'm here because I have learned all these things, and I hope, please God, I'm able to articulate them clearly enough. Because I'll miss some tricks somewhere along the line, but help me out, and keep prodding me with your questions, and I'll get it all out. All right? Now, the trick of it is this. This is what I've seen. That now that you've come to the point where you've come to the end of your rope,
It is.
you've struggled and you struggled and you struggled and you tried to reason with them, and they become back with greater confusion.
But they're right about me.
Right.
I've proven them right about me.
You've proven them right
Because
about
I'm
you.
tired.
Yes.
And I cannot describe or control what's progressively happened to me.
And you
throughout
prove
my
to
whole
them
life.
that of yourself you can do nothing and that you need them.
Absolutely.
And that moment you need them, they'll accept you and love you.
Every
and then you're
time.
dead man.
Yes, I'm just about dead.
You'll be dead in them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like being alive in something. It's an
Exactly.
only illusion, isn't it? Because you die and come alive in their love, don't you?
Yes,
and then
I
you
know.
become a complete zombie. That's how all the cults, all the fanatics of the world, that's how they get to be fanatics. The
But where's
Ayatollah.
salvation for me? I've
Where?
tried it all. I mean, this is I feel the last step before the cuckoo farm.
I know, I understand, but we're close.
I'm very tired.
We're close,
If this
aren't we?
doesn't work, I'm not going to sit on the floor and chant or sit in an S seminar at the Hilton Hotel or something. I have tried, and I know I'm not a good person, but
But you're under a spell.
I
You're
am.
under
I feel
something.
that.
You are caught up in something you do not fully understand, and until you fully understand it,
I can't even work. I don't
Well-
know how to work.
excuse me. Before you speak, I want to bring the point. I'm sure you're waiting for me to say what it is, aren't you? Wait for it, everyone. The thing is that once you have discovered what the game is, it is they set you up to react to them. They set themselves up as a problem to you, or they set up a problem in you to which you respond with a problem-solving answer, your own ego. In other words, what you must not do is this. You must not resent the pressures they put on you. You also, inside yourself, when it's not a they outside and it's a they inside, you must not resent your insurmountable problems and respond to it and to struggle against it with your own ego. You must not respond to take a certain strength from challenge. Hear me? You must not resent your problems, in other words. I say it, I come back to my one line. You must not resent your dilemma. You must not resent the church or whoever's brainwashing you, setting you up this impossible set of standards to achieve. You must not resent you're not being able to live up to someone's expectations. See? You must not resent that, and you must realize in that moment that you must not even start to struggle with in other words, you must give up before you struggle. Otherwise, you'll give up after you struggle. Because you see, you'll see you've given up all your spiritual energy. You'll have given up all your strength, so that eventually you'll give in to that which has challenged you. Because by that time, you'll be more like them, more compatible with them, and more acceptable to them, and they to you.
That's exactly what's happened to me.
Exactly.
I'm sitting here in that space.
Okay, now, I'm asking you now to be very careful here, because you're so close to salvation, you can taste it. You must, when the temptation rises now, to do whatever it is that they want you to do to please them. You know what it is, don't you? You know what they want
Need
from you.
them.
But you resent that, don't you?
And I know
And then you
it's
try to
wrong
be, you resent it,
them.
and you try to be free. This is your scene. You resent them. You know they want you to need them, and they know that they want to make you a cripple, and they're going to reward you for your weakness for them
I don't
eventually.
think they can help it.
They
and
can't
it's
help it, but
frustrating.
beside the point. That's also a point, but not beside this point. You know that's what they want. You resent that implication. You resent the intent. You see it beyond the surface of things. You see that they want you to be a cripple, that they don't really love you while pretending to love you. right?
I do
They
see
want to
that.
be, see that? They're caught up in something they can't control either. They're being acted through, and what's acting through them is trying to get to you, make you
I
a
feel
slave.
guilty for hating them because I see that
That is it. The guilt will always make you end up,
go back to them.
go back to
I
them.
always do.
It will always, the resentment will always make you in the image of their suggestions. Let's say, for example, just deviate just for a moment. Mother says to her son, "You're no good, drunken, rotten bum like your father. You'll never be any damn good." Witchy noise. The little child keeps hearing that. The little child gets upset. The little child grows up with conflict because of anger and guilt. He's already beginning to take shape in the likeness of the mother's suggestion. He struggles not to drink because now he's making up his mind. He's not going to be like his mother wants him to be. His little soul senses that, but he hates his mother. The hate sets up conflict. The conflict is so great, there's no other way he can relieve the conflict but by drinking or doing something dumb. And now he ends up drinking to relieve the conflict because he hates his mother. But he's already become like his father because his father hated his mother and hated his mother and his own mother before that. In other words, the reaction to the temptation, the accusation and the put down, the reaction itself has separated man from his salvation, from his ultimate good, and put into him the seeds of likeness of the thing which portend the future. In other words, he's becoming like, he's already forming inside his head through the reaction. He's beginning to take shape according to the prediction. You're going to be like your father. It's this, in other words, the boy is trying to resist, but he resists with one wrong response, with resentment. The moment he resists with resentment, he starts to be bonded to the source of that suggestion. He starts to take shape from it. And no matter how much he struggles, he's going to take shape. Because every time his mother comes on with her bitching and witchiness, he's going to resent it. Every time he resents it, his mind is taking shape. And eventually, his mother is going to prove that she was right all along. And the only truth that there is for that boy is to accept the truth. He is like his father, his mother was right. And accept her love.
Can I add something to it?
Is that making sense?
Yes, it is. I can quickly tell you how it happened, very quickly. I was about 10 years old, and my mother and the kids were sitting outside, and she was serving soda pop, and she had a friend there, and she served me a half of a glass, and I called her cheap, because I was kind of feisty. And she ran after me into the bedroom and she slapped me. And I told her I hated her and I wish she would die. And she left, and she came back. As she left, I said, "I hope you die. I hate you. It's wrong for you to do that." She humiliated me in front of her friend. She
Right.
threw the soda pop. And finally, the third time she came in, I wimped out, and that was the end of my life. I apologized to her as she beat me. And I
Because
have paid with my
anger
life.
makes you feel like you are the one that has done the wrong, and especially if the other person is nice to you, and is super, like women tend to be nice to their children after they've been upset. After they've upset their children and made them guilty, then they tend to be nice to them and sweet and syrupy and make the child emphasize the guilt and make the child feel like the child has done the wrong, and therefore the only way to ease the pain of the guilt of wrong is to seek the mother's love. And the mother's love then becomes the salvation for that little embryonic ego that was planted in a moment of anger and hate. See? Now, coming back to you now again, is that you have to learn one thing, and that is you must stop resenting the intent of your parents. Your mother doesn't even understand her intent. She may think her intent is beautiful and wonderful and, mothery and all that sort of thing, but you know better. You see through that. And you're reacting to that intent. You're not reacting to what she's saying so much, because on the surface, for as far as you're concerned, she's not one of those mothers who says you'll grow up to be a bum like your father. She may not be even berating you. She may be very supportive. I don't know.
Very supportive.
See? But the trouble is, you are reacting with what's inside her head, what is beyond what she can see. You hate that motive in her. See? And you're taking shape in the likeness of that spirit.
I'm dying from it.
And then after a while, the only way you're dying to it.
I'm dying to it, yes.
You're dying to it, you see? And you're being shaped in the likeness of
Absolutely.
it. And the only way that thing inside you can exist with itself, with yourself, is to give yourself completely over to it for complete release. But then you become a person without conscience.
That's
If you could ever come to the other side, if you could step, right now you're halfway between two worlds, but if you ever stepped to the other side to completely accept that person's love, you will be out without a mind of your own, but you will have the mind of the spirit that recreated you in its image. That's like Bhagwan Rajneesh. He played those games. The people didn't have any mind of their own, but the mind they did have was the mind of Bhagwan. Now I'm going to tell you the same thing in reverse is salvation. The salvation is not, we do not live, but Christ lives in us. It's the same thing. We give over, we find a way to give over our lives to that spirit within us, to learn to give into it, so that we no longer have a life of our own. But remember, the life of our own was out of the mothers that have loved us that way, either the witchy ones or the not so witchy ones. The life we have is out of the woman's spirit. And if we keep on getting a life flowing in and out of a woman, and eventually feeling guilty and seeking their love, see, slowly we'll completely wimp out until we no longer have the mind that we might have had, but we have the mind from the other side. And we become mindless beings, and you see this all over the world. That's why armies and Bhagwan Rajneeshs and Ayatollahs, they flourish. And people wimp out to that, because they have no mind except the mind of their tormentor. And that's why it works. How many people here have a tormentor whose mind they are becoming? May I see a hand? Is there only a few of you? Yes, or you become. Yes.
You made something very clear, which you've been trying to
Okay.
make clear for the last 2 years with me.
All right.
When you come up with temptation and you realize there's a confrontation, that
Right.
is the point you give up struggle before you get into the reactive stage of it and
Right.
become resentful.
Right.
Because if you give up after that, then you're giving in to the other spirit.
You
You,
see-
can't give in to God at that point?
No,
Once
no.
you give up,
Yeah, you can.
you can.
You see, the thing is, what you've got to be careful of is not to be challenged. Your ego must not be challenged, because your ego then will grow in the likeness of what challenges you, because it knows that you're going to grow into its likeness, and pretty soon you're going to need its love. See, you resent it, trying to get free from it, right? It challenges you to free yourself, but no, it knows that you cannot free yourself, that you'll be only free from self, from the self that could free you, that you become more emotionally involved with that which is recreating you in its image.
My skin's being taken off my body because I see this happening.
Yes, well, we got 2 minutes. Can we hold it right there? We got some good stuff rolling, haven't we? Tomorrow night we'll continue. Sounds like that's one of those cliffhangers. I have a program on AM radio, 870 on the dial. Care to listen in on Monday through Friday? 9 o'clock. 870 on the dial, KIEV. And, well, we need support for this program. I know that you must see that there's no program like this anywhere. Not on this level. That you are raising in consciousness to understand the principles behind your scriptures. There's a combination of common sense, philosophy, psychology, but it all blends down. It's a nice blending of all the things that make it the spirit of truth more understandable and acceptable. May I suggest that to prepare you for this wonderful journey, you start meditating with my 3 cassettes, which will teach you how to become objective, not give in to the dark self. Understand all the tricks of the world that you live in, so you don't get pulled in all the way. And, well, find something that I call salvation. Do you have to believe in Christ to be saved? Well, that will be the next subject of our next discussion group. Tomorrow evening, this time, will you join us? And make sure you send some money so when you turn the boob tube on, this boob is on it. Thank you very much for listening to the program. We really appreciate your offerings. It's tax deductible. And thanks for listening, and join us again.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to my program, and we're discussing salvation. And forgive me if I don't froth out the mouth about scriptures. I do like scriptures, but I think we could set aside scriptures and just use them as salt and pepper, as I was saying a few moments ago. I want to approach this salvation thing from a purely, simply logical, common sense view. A little bit of scripture, a little philosophy, a little psychology, a little practical way of arriving at it. And I would ask the audience to resist their, I know there's one or two in the audience that might want to be, who are very scriptural and very fanatic and verse and chapter Bible thumping quality, which would be a turnoff from anything that might be achieved here. All right? Now, with that preamble, I was saying, we were in our last discussion, do you have to believe in a Jesus Christ to be saved? That's a good question. Now, I won't answer the question. I'll come to an answer, okay? If I said yes, I'll turn everybody off. If I say no, I'll turn some people off. So now you'll sit and wait for it. First of all, what is it we're supposed to be saved from? Are we a risen beast or a fallen man? If you're a risen animal, then it only follows that, well, you're going to be better and better and better of a matter of course. Who needs salvation if you're a risen animal? Is that right? If you are evolving from the slime, and I'm sure a lot of people have come out of the slime, I think they're going back to the slime. But if you are evolving from this primordial slime, then it follows in the course of evolution, according to their idea of evolution, that everything will be of itself. You can't help but improve. There's no need to make any strides. There's no need to seek salvation because you're getting better and better and better and better and better and better all the time. Correct? So therefore, to believe that man is a risen being precludes the possibility of being saved. You wouldn't need it. The whole idea itself is saving. For the ego, well, we're all right the way we are. That's another way of saying we're all right with the way we are, using anthropology. Anthropology is also a form of religion that saves you. It saves the ego, and it justifies the impulses of our animal nature. After all, we're animals, right? What's wrong with it? What's wrong is society represses our desires. What we need to do is to express them. That will be our salvation. You see what's happened to our society, haven't you? Because of that. We unleash the beast more and more in humanity. When we start to realize and count the damage, take account of all the damage that's been done, all the lives that have been lost, wrecked, you see that we've been tricked very badly. We're not getting any better when you release the beast. You're only becoming more beastly. We are already becoming worse, lower than the beast. We're capable of things that animals are not capable of. I mean, to talk about those kind of people that have evolved from that kind of philosophy and that idea, way of thinking, is to insult the animals, to insult the pigs, right? So we must, therefore, see the truth that man is a fallen being. And then what is the nature of the falling? Because we have to, if we're fallen, then we're separated from something we've fallen from. We've always also fallen from something to something. And that accounts for the nature that troubles us. Do you agree with that? We're stuck, we're involved in something that we're involved and evolving from something that has taken us from our higher estate. Yes?
Well, I'm very angry.
Angry at me now?
Well, I'm angry at the whole idea, not really at you. Right? That'd be in big trouble to do that.
Please stand.
Sure.
You're not big enough to hit me, so I'm all right.
No, I wouldn't hit you. But I'm very angry. I've been listening to you for almost 2 years.
Yes.
And I feel part of me wants to join with that spirit.
Right.
But I'm very angry because I don't want to sit for 18 years and be a Roybot
I'm
with a
glad.
tape recorder plugged into my
I
head.
don't want you to be there either.
And with a book in front of my face.
I don't want
now
you to be that
is
way.
my fault because I have done that.
All right.
I want to be a person. If I would like to be a friend for the rest of my life, but where is my life? Where is my, how can I separate and take the gift that you give without destroying the beauty in it because of my weakness?
What a beautiful question. This is a very beautiful question. Do you see what you're afraid of? That you're saying, how can I find this beautiful gift without becoming a Roybot, someone who involved with me? Do you see what your problem is?
Yes.
That your salvation is from your parents to Roy Masters.
Absolutely.
But it is Roy Masters who loves you.
I know you do.
You know I don't wish it to be that way. You know that.
Absolutely
For this
know
reason,
that.
my motive is shining into you, and you're seeing that.
Yes, I do.
Because I could be a Rajneesh type person and take advantage of your transference of identity.
I've been hooked up with him. I know about him.
You know about that.
I know.
You know
not
how
him,
you.
But
Did you see
others.
that lady was talking about it a little while ago? That Woody Allen movie, the Chameleon, where he is around everything. If he's around a fat man, he was fat. If he's around a Chinese person, he's a Chinese person. He takes on the characteristics.
That's right.
But do you remember the movie? It was he took on the identity of everything that was around.
My whole life.
That's what you do.
My whole
You're
life.
all chameleons. And our salvation exists for the chameleon people, the psychotic, which you have been,
Yes.
is to take on, in other words, to jump from one thing to another. For instance, if you're a Catholic and you don't like Catholicism, then you seek escape from the tyranny of Catholicism into Judaism or whatever. And then you become chameleon.
But I don't
You take
wanna
on a
be
new
a
identity.
weirdo.
It's like salvation, is it? It's like salvation. You're saved from one, but you're claimed by another.
But I don't want to be a weirdo. I
Ah.
don't want to be cuckoo.
But I understand this, but do you see that your problem is one of identifying with everything external to you, that you flow into something and you flow out of it,
How can
and
I
you
not
escape
be
from one
that way?
flowing into another flowing? Is that right, what I'm saying?
Yeah, but what I'm thinking, when I mentioned about the chameleon, I thought of myself, but I can see how I fell to that through hating my parents. And I had like a gaping wound, just ready to take in anything that was there.
It opens you up. How many
Yeah.
times have I said that when you respond to temptation, it opens you up to the sensations and the inrush of the world,
And
which gives you an identity to which you become addicted.
But I've always been hooked to somebody. You're
Why
the
were you
best.
angry? Why are you angry?
Because
though?
again, I'm hooked to somebody. It's 2 years of my life, and I get up in the morning, and it's not that I think about you 24 hours a day, but now this teachings and this.
Yes, I know,
And
but-
I know I'm screwing everything up.
But I know, but you do need, but look,
Because
look
I'm
at this.
screwed up still.
Look at this. You do need to be around me some, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can I help to save you if I have an idea which I have to present to you?
It's either you or my mom.
Right, so which is the better choice?
You. I'll take my
All right.
chances.
So if you're going to be hooked to somebody, is it okay to be hooked to me for a while, do you think?
Oh, I hope God, salvation, whatever it is.
But the thing is, if you are afraid because of your known weakness, because you're aware of your weakness, if you're afraid, so how can, am I going to be hooked to Roy Masters? I'm going to be flowing into him and
I am.
riding his
Because
coattails?
I'm embarrassed. I know not that I don't, I am aware of it, and I'm afraid that'll happen with you and destroy the best.
Can I do this? Can I say this to you? Be conscious of what you just said. Continue listening to me. Don't run away from me before I can help you understand something.
was just-
You've got to stay. I am trying to get you to understand. You are overstanding. See? But you're, if that's appropriate word, you're not understanding. I'm trying to get you to realize things and to flow from what you realize. So to give yourself to the realization, salvation, and for the realization to give itself to you. Something of there's something mysterious. There's a mystique in this. Remember I said in the last program that the relationship between man and woman, or the things we're caught up in, is exactly the same kind of relationship that we should have within ourselves. I'm trying to make you realize what you just said. Man, I'm so weak. I'm caught up in this and I'm caught up in that, and I think, oh, this is another heaven, and there's another heaven, and it's another hell, right? And you don't want to be caught up with me. Full marks. But don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I represent the dad you never had.
Mhm.
And the dad recognizes the tendency of the fallen nature, which is of the woman. Okay?
Mhm.
He recognizes the nature of the child to be caught up with the woman, with everything that is of the woman, which is called the world. And therefore, through patience and love and good sound teaching, not with hypocrisy, but truth with love, not truth with hypocrisy, being the example of that, leading the child's realization to the same level of awareness that the father himself has. Because only that kind of truth can make a person free. The intimate relationship with one's own inner knowing. Now, you already know that there's a danger of being caught up with me.
Yes, a very big danger.
All right,
yes.
you know that. And
Yes.
but the point is, it's the lesser of two evils right now to be caught up with some cult, your mother, some dominating lady, right? You have those other options.
Yes, I do.
Which one would you rather be caught up with right now?
It could answer quickly, but
But am I not teaching you to observe this
Yes,
fact? How would you have known about being caught up if I hadn't been talking about it and explaining it to you and discouraging caught upness?
I wouldn't have known, but I don't know how to apply it to my life.
Yeah, but don't be frustrated.
Oh.
Give it time. See, in other words, you're trying, he's immediately with his ego trying not to be caught up. When all I am asking him to realize that he is caught up.
Mm.
And that is a realization which very few people have. Because until you have that realization, what you don't have can't work for you.
Oh, I just realized I've been trying for like 7 months to
make it
not
work.
be caught up with you, because I knew I was caught up with you.
But if you just
then I
realize...
come into the foundation and I think, well, I'm going to volunteer, and I said, he's going to see me coming, and it's like he's going to feel, uh-oh, this guy's going to suck the life out of me. And then I feel, well, I can't go to the foundation anymore because he's going to see me like a big light, and then I've blown my chance to
But look how
become a
nice it is.
person.
You brought it up. Did you understand? Did the light go on just now?
Yes.
Now, do you understand what in part, salvation is? It is the realization of the truth of anything, especially your fault. In your case, it's here, the realization of your caught upness within everything. And I'm saying, now look, since you are caught up with me, it's still I have your attention, right? I mean, at least it has an advantage that I have your attention. It's better for you to give me your attention and me to flow into you and say something than for your mother to keep flowing into you and say nothing. Right? Right? So, it is the essence of salvation is to realize a truth about one's sin without resenting knowing it. And within the full realization of that moment without words, to know that of yourself, whatever truth is revealed to you about whatever, in his case, the caught upness, that you cannot do anything about it but just to see that it's so. And to do nothing more than be grateful to see that it's so. And to know that of yourself, you cannot change one white hair black and one black hair white. And leave it alone just like that, nothing more than that, just to know it. And to be grateful to know now I see what the problem is, but now what is the answer? But if you listen very carefully, that within the realization, the gratefulness of the realization is the hidden and mysterious acceptance of God, the reality who gave it to you. Because most of our lives, we are rejecting understanding. We resent knowing things about ourselves. We resent feeling guilty. We look for those to make us guiltless. We flow into them, and their love flows into us, and for a moment we feel like we're on cloud 9 when we're really somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. I realized this one day. I realized I was selfish. Then I realized that I had not noticed that I was selfish before. I suddenly became conscious, right? And obviously the reason for my consciousness is because I loved to be conscious. And I love the spirit of consciousness, which is Him who created me. So, but I'm reflecting upon it now. I didn't think in these terms then. All I did was remember that moment in my level of awareness, such as it was, that I realized I was selfish. But then I also realized, see, I'm realizing it. Realization is giving me more realization, that I cannot be unselfish because I'm not being honest with myself. How can I be unselfish? I know I'm selfish. I'm lying. I am selfish. I don't want to do this or that. Therefore, if I act out unselfish and give to make as if giving, the act or the deed itself, would would make me unselfish. Some people say that. You do it and you become it. It's not so. Not completely. Because it has to come about in the way you shall presently see. So coming to the point, I realized I was selfish, then I realized that I could not pretend selfishness, because then I would still know that I was not real. Now you know you all have understood that in some degree. Then it bothered me. I didn't resent it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't cry out to God. I didn't cry out to Jesus Christ. I didn't do anything. I just sat there with a little egg on my face, and then I forgot it. All right? Then an interesting thing happened. 6 months later, something similar happened, and I discovered I had done something unselfish. I'd hardly noticed it. My selfishness was gone. To that degree, at least. Maybe more selfishness, unselfishness would appear and disappear in the same way. There's something magical about allowing yourself to realize the truth. Do you know how people hate the truth and don't want to realize it, because it's the not realizing it enables them to be God, enables them to be right when they're wrong. See? Egotistical. The only way an ego can the only way an ego can live with itself is not to realize truth, because it can't be a truth. It can't be its own truth. It can't be a right in its wrong. Therefore, the whole world does something different in that very moment than I did. It makes the truth go away, make excuses or something, or it tries hard to roll up the sleeves and pretends to be unselfish when they really are. Okay?
And you just did that, and you didn't resent yourself for it. Did you just forgive yourself?
No, I didn't do
for it?
anything. I didn't forgive myself. That is because I'm not God. I can't forgive myself. I can't love myself. I cannot change myself. I realized that, and God loved me because all He wanted me to listen, and I accepted it. See, I didn't deny it. What does an alcoholic do? He denies whatever he sees about himself. Now, if you just leave it, if he leaves the seeing alone, if he lets the light, the realization, simply show him, and him not react negatively to it resentfully, and go off and get bombed, in order not to realize it, to be comfortable with himself and his ego, which is a statement about his unrepentance, his unwillingness, his unwillingness to give himself over to light. It's hiding, yes. This lady over here first.
Yes. I have a question about the Holy Spirit, and I have this sense that the Holy Spirit is really just the intuition that comes to us in any moment, and that's
It's
what
intuition,
we
right.
should follow. Is there such a thing then as so-called baptism of the Holy Spirit? And if so,
Yeah, that is
what
it. But baptism is submersion. Isn't it submersion? When Christ was here, or when not Paul, but John the Baptist, he said, I just baptize you with water, but there's one whom I'm not, whose shoelaces I'm not unworthy to unlatch, that he will come and baptize you with the Holy Spirit. Now, whatever that means, it's something very akin to what I've just said, because when you don't resist, for instance, your mother, you get to the point where you don't resist her, you're going to be overcome.
Chinese food.
What was Chinese food? What was that?
That's the pacifier. That was my choice tonight, to have the Chinese food with her or come here.
Oh.
It's a big decision for me.
No, but
Because I can get anything I want.
no, the point that I was making, the point, one second. The point that I was making is that once you submit to her will, her ideas, you have lost your own self in her, and she becomes you, and she is all you are, right?
She got sick recently, and I felt that I was going to die.
Yes,
because
because that's right. That's why
I felt I was going to die, and that's what really scared me.
That's right,
because I
because
realized I didn't care that she would die. I felt I was
that's
going to die.
right. That's identification. You see, you've lost yourself in her. You're losing yourself.
Oh my God!
See? No, it's not funny. It's very serious. But I'm trying to say is this submission. This, for instance, your problem is that you're afraid that you'll accept your mother's desire for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now God has a a desire for you too. And this desire or will comes to you in increments, like your mother chips away at you. You know, she chips away with her will and her ideas and her understanding of things and wanting you to give in on small accounts until eventually you give in to the whole hog, right? That's the last step. It's step by step by step. Now, I'm saying that there's a similar process inside your head, which of course at this point says, don't do that. Because there's another resistance there in you, isn't there? In some people who are too far gone, there is no resistance.
Oh.
You don't ever want to. There's so many people who are completely lost in the godless church, which pretends it's Christian. There's so many people caught up in so many things that they've given themselves over to it completely. They don't even know they're mindless. They have a mind, but it's the mind of that which has taken their mind. You follow that? Now, it is true that we must be egoless, but the process that I am referring to is exactly on the inside as it is on the outside. You must give way, first of all, to when the realization about something comes along, there's always another something right next to it called doubt, right? It's like it sits right on your doorstep. So whenever you start to realize something, something along tries to grab it away. The meditation that I'm teaching will bring you to the ability to be thoughtful, say, yes, that makes sense. And not resent knowing, and not resent not being able to do what you know right away. Remember, you have no power. All I'm asking you to do is simply allow yourself to realize whatever dilemma is presented to you, without resenting it, without struggling, without being desperate, and
Observe.
yes, just observe, and you'll see that understanding what I just said, after all, this is not brainwashing, I'm telling you. I'm saying there's a process in you that I want you to realize, which is always true, can always be depended on, that is true. For instance, it doesn't have to be a positive truth. It could be a negative truth. Someone could do something silly, and everybody will say, oh, that's very good, very sensible. Yeah, I believe that. But you know, even though you can't see it, and you can't articulate it, that there's something wrong with everybody seeing it as a right. Only you stand out, and you know there's something wrong, but you can't explain it to anybody. But something inside you says, that doesn't make sense. You have to trust that. See? And that's going against the will of the world, and you're already submitting without realizing it to that will that is not of the world. Now, Christ says, he said, if any man, I can't remember the exact words, but he said, if any man follow after me, believes and follow after me, those sorts of words, he shall know the doctrine. If you simply accept one simple idea, it will become part of you. You won't even know it. It will become part of you. Just like your mother will become part of you, except you're struggling not for her to become part of you, but that struggle is egotistical, and eventually you'll give in. Remember we spoke about that before?
Yes, I do.
And I told you how to give in by not struggling. You give in to this. You give in to the idea not to struggle. You give in to the realization. See how delicate that is? Don't resent it. Don't be challenged by this. Okay, she's got you. Dead right. That's the truth. Just realize it and don't hate realizing it.
Good.
And he'll take care. Salvation is of that process where you realize that you can't save yourself.
That's good.
You understand that?
Yes, I do.
And that, why would something tell you that you can't save yourself if it didn't intend to save you? That'd be cruel, wouldn't it? Got it?
I wanted to say about
Perfect logic.
This young lady right here, that when she said that, weren't you saving yourself? I had the opportunity to see my selfishness one day, and I was in prison, and I was on my bunk, and I was doing something in my locker. It just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I realized that I was selfish, and I got a glimpse of my children and the women that I've been with, and I seen the way that I've been to them. I was no good. I was rotten and everything, and
you're sorry, weren't you?
and I was very sad about it, and I didn't think anything. All I did was get very sad, and I looked at it, and I was willing to look at it, and I was thankful, and then for a while there.
You see what he says? He was willing to look at it. He felt bad, but he wasn't mad, and then he was thankful. Do you see the order of things?
Repentance.
It's called repentance. He was going through something called repentance, something that it's impossible for the ego, the stubborn ego, to experience. In other words, unless you experience repentance, which is a changing around of attitude, to be receptive to truth, truth can't come in. See? I can lead you. Forgive me, Larry, because we're just going to the end of the program again. But what you said is well taken. I can lead you. I'm trying to lead you to that experience. And by every explanation, every little piece of logic will bring you more and more to rely upon whatever is leading you. See, if you follow after me, what I'm trying to say, and bring you to this mysterious logic, to be subject to the mysteriousness of this common sense about things, eventually he reveals more and more of himself. And you will know more, and you'll be able to do more. And you will know more, and you'll be able to do more. And you'll be made to know bigger things and greater things, and the discipline will flow as a result. You won't hardly notice yourself getting better. And your Creator is forming himself in you. And like a baby crying to its mama, it doesn't recognize its mother or father. But as the baby cries, in your pain you cry, and the understanding comes. And you are grateful for the understanding, and sometimes experiencing repentance accompanying it. Changes occur in you in a very mysterious way. Be patient. You won't see them happening. Thank you very much. And this half an hour went past very quickly. Tomorrow we're going to have another program. Please keep us on the air, because we're coming down to the end of our time on the radio, on the television. And if we don't help us, you know, I've already given my resignation to the station, but you can save it if you want to. It's up to you. Thanks for listening, and join us in our next program.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, we've been on an interesting role on the subject of salvation. And I'm sorry, those of you who have just joined us, that you may have missed some of the preamble to this last two segments. But we have, a lot of people have been tuning in this week, and if you've missed these segments and find the last three segments, by the way, and you find this program interesting, you can always get copies of these programs on audio or video cassettes. Now, there's a question right here from a young gentleman. Okay, go ahead.
Sort of regarding the other guy's question about how, you know, we listen to you and
We get caught up with me.
right. Is there a point where we could just do the meditation and read the Bible and then live from that?
Well, it all depends upon your motive, because I think that a person who has got a pure intent gets caught up with everything they do. Even the things that will save them will enslave them. So what you're looking at, if it wasn't me that you'd be caught up with, you'd be caught up in someone else. I have no intention for you to be caught up with me. But the trouble is, you're so weak, sorry to put it that way, so conditioned, that you don't know how to relate to anything on a mature level. That's what it is. And I'm trying to show you that. And I'm doing my darndest to show you it. And I'm not preaching you any doctrine. Have you noticed I haven't taught you the Trinity or the Schminity, whatever. You know, which is nothing else but a preachment of contradictions. And even when I press those people who preach those things, and I say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, they end up saying, well, it's very complicated. Nobody can understand it. You just have to accept it. I say, you think I'm crazy? You mustn't accept something you don't understand. Because I'm not the kind of person that preaches contradictions. I'll let that job be your mother's. She's the one that preaches you contradictions until she drives you into a schizophrenic state. See what I mean? And then you end up you don't think anymore. You let the other, you're so confused you can't figure anything out. And then you end up letting her do your thinking for you. And that's what the church does, and that's what everybody in this whole world is like that out there. And don't give you anything that makes sense. The whole world is nothing else but a living mess of confusion. Don't you agree, ladies and gentlemen? It's a big Tower of Babel out there. Babel. Now, where was I? I forgot your question.
It was that, can we just do the meditation and read the Bible and then live from that, or, and break
How did
away
I
from
discover
listening
it?
to your program and watching you on TV and so on?
If your motivation is pure.
Well,
But some people's motivation is not pure. Sometimes they use the meditation and it becomes hypnotic. Because as I said, even if you read the Bible, you know what's going to happen? A person who is impressionable and not mature and not with its intent towards the light not perfectly formed will get caught up with everything he does. It doesn't make any difference whether you get caught up with verses and chapters or Hitler's Mein Kampf.
Do everything in moderation.
Well, no, you've missed the point. Do everything in moderation. You get a little bit of Mein Kampf and a little bit of... Do me a favor. You're not listening. Go ahead.
so, well, I think I would feel it myself if I knew I wasn't doing the right thing.
Are you caught up with me? Question.
No, I don't think so.
Is anybody here caught up with me? Come on now, be honest. Come on, a little bit. Listen, some of you are most caught up with me, wouldn't see it. There's something about being caught up that doesn't allow you to see that you're caught up, because that's the nature of caught up. Not wanting to see. Getting a quick salvation. I'm a nice personality, I'm bubbly, I'm friendly, and you just get into me and I get into you, and all of a sudden you got a quick fix. You're me. Is that right?
I was making a tuna fish sandwich the other day, listening to your tape, going loo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and I thought, this is weird. I mean, this is really, he never said to do this. Getting rejuvenated by just listening to the tape while I'm making my lunch.
Yeah,
That was
yes. So
not kosher at all.
That's what you do to get caught
And
up.
I thought, this is...
Did you know smoking pot and taking cocaine, you know what that does? You know what the purpose of it? To enhance the opening and the powers to be caught up with something. It opens you up more. The more you take those chemicals, somehow it affects you psychically, and it opens your centers to receive more of the inrush of ego life. And it deadens the truth of what's going on, so that you cannot see your caught upness. You really think, man, I'm caught up with Jesus Christ, and I'm up there with him, man. See? And this is a transcendent experience. It's the beginning of something beautiful, when it's the end of something ugly. It's a game of death. It's what it is, a game of death. And that is the original sin, to be caught up with lies and self-deceptions. But the more you get caught up, the more sin comes. It makes a home in you. The more sin makes a home in you, the more proud of it you're going to be. Looking for acceptance, looking for love, looking to be more caught up in the things which accept you and reinforce that trip. Who understands me, yeah? But if you're caught up with me, okay, I can live with it. But I don't intend for it to be, and if it is, okay. I don't want it to be forever. But don't be afraid. Just know that you are. But you got to listen to somebody. Somebody has to. You can't find it in yourself. You see? Otherwise you wouldn't need me. Don't you see? Who's next?
I know exactly what you're saying, because I was hypnotically caught up with you for years. And all but for the grace of God that yanked me out of all the lifestyles that I had been holding on to, like life rafts, and as I would go down in the ocean, I'd bop up and say, I know Roy's got an answer to this, because I don't have any answers, and I now know that in saying that, I had no one in my life like you.
They're coming for me.
But having had no one like you, and I knew that there was something about you that wasn't hypnotic.
There's
There was
something
something about you that the truth.
Hear what you're
all I
saying?
kept saying was, I knew that the truth would set me free, because I had maybe one or two little. So I said, I'm holding on, because I've tried all the phony baloney
What's
truth.
your first name?
Marilyn.
Marilyn. Do you hear what Marilyn's saying? See, The difference is in the person. Somebody else could be sitting here without that something she sees in me that is, I hope is there. I think it is. I like to believe it. I'm caught up with the idea that it is, at least. You see? But the point is, what is in me is that truth without hypocrisy. Whatever is in me is what you call the light. That light that you see in me is also in you recognizing it in me. And when when the light in you, that little part of you that loves the light, recognizes the light in me, it attaches itself to me, to the light in me, like I was your dad. See? But you see, because of the purity of intent, I won't allow you, that spirit in me, you know it, which I'm bringing you to in you, won't allow you to be caught up with me. I push you away. I reject you. I keep on. You may want my friendship, and you may come to volunteer in the mailroom and look for my approval, and I get you for it, right? And then you feel uncomfortable. I won't give you that approval. It's almost, I keep you outside at a distance. And yet there's a part of you that wants my acceptance, but I won't give it to you. I throw you back on yourself all the time. And when you send money to the foundation, you probably won't get a thank you note. You just send the money, you don't get anything back. Well, then you because I don't send you a thank you note, you don't send any more. But then you send any more, you feel guilty, because you know that's what you're looking for, a thank you note. The approval. Is that right or not? So I'm not playing the game with you, and you know it. And so therefore, it is okay. I shouldn't say, I don't give you, I can't say to you it's okay, but you know what I'm saying. It's that it's okay to listen to me, because if you're going to be caught up in something, then if you can find a person who has your best interest at heart, and you can see that it doesn't want you to be a member, you can't belong to the foundation, you can't join, there's no classes in anything. If you want to come to a lecture, you come. If you don't, you don't. You listen, you listen. If you don't want to listen, that's it. There's no regimentation, there's no requirements. Because I already know that if you belong to something, you can't belong to yourself. And I know that's the reason why the foundation is that way, that some of you are such church pots. See? That you attach yourself to something external. If I had a real church like a church is a church, with all its trimmings, and its traditions, and its trinities, and its doctrines. If I had that, you'd be caught up in me, and you'd never grow. You'd think you'd have something, but you wouldn't. And I love you too much for that. I love what's right too much for that, to do that to you. Beside, it'd be a drain on me. I'd turn into an ogre. You'd pull the worst out of me after a while. There wouldn't be that good side. If I allowed for that, there wouldn't be that good side anymore coming through for you, but something rising in me to possess you.
But I find that, in the pattern of my life, that every time I tried to hang on to something that really wasn't for the best interest in coming to my Father, somehow it was stripped away from me. That's why I said about the life preserver. So I kept hanging in there saying, but everybody else has got these things, how come I don't?
No, because you're not compatible. See, Marilyn, you're not compatible. I've said that you and people sitting in this audience and people listening,
Now
on
I
television,
understand that.
you are not compatible. You cannot deepen yourself and more deeply involve yourself and find satisfaction in that which other people find so much happiness. It makes you scratch your head. Why can't I do all those things and enjoy it? It's not fair. You even get jealous. Some of you even get jealous that they can enjoy it and you can't. But you don't know what a mitzvah, what a mitzvah, what's a blessing. I'm thinking in Jewish now. See, you don't know what a blessing it is not to be able to enjoy those things, because it means you have an umbilical cord to the Father, that your destiny is in a different direction. Narrow is the way and few are those that find it. Broad is the road to destruction, and most people go that way.
And I was in a convent walking the grounds.
Yes, keep standing.
With a rule of silence and 3 vows and Mother Superiors telling me where to go, what to do, and how to do it.
Everybody's got
And
a Mother Superior in their life, one way or the
And
other.
it took me 9 months of sheer inner hell, because I broke out of a cocoon that, they said you go to hell if you don't follow us.
Right.
And I says, no.
No, you
I
go to
know.
hell if you do.
Well, I knew that I knew, because once Mother General turned to me and she said, why are you leaving? And the inner voice said, because if I stay here, I'll lose my soul. And I thought hell would broke loose then. but that was the truth for me.
Can I say something here? That once you're caught up in her cultic religion, in the convent type of mentality, sorry to put it that way, once you're caught up with that thing, you become so impregnated with the spirit of that which pretends it's religion and God, pretends it's religious and God, that you're so much identified with at that point that if you give up clinging to it and if you give up the love, the nurturing it has to offer you in reward for your giving over to it, you start to feel guilt. Well, what is guilt? The guilt is the truth emerging for your involvement of that thing. So heaven feels like hell to the spirit in you that's of them. Heaven feels like hell. So that's what makes people want to rush back to their cults, to their lovers, to their drugs, to their cocaine. Because heaven starts to feel like hell because the part of you that is out of hell, that's flowed out of it in exchange for your life that's flowed into it. See what I mean? The identity part of you that when it's left alone, that's why Rajneesh, that's why Jim Jones was able to get all those people to die with him. Because they could not live. He gave them a false identity with a false illusion paradise, so that if he was going to die, they would leave them alone in this world with a convicted by their conscience, and they would feel like it was hell. So they had to go with him to heaven. They all died. They all killed themselves. Heaven is hell in that condition. That's what you have to realize, not to be afraid of facing guilt, not to be afraid of letting go of all your hang-ups, all your religions, all your drinks, all your dopes, all your cocaine. Conscience is the good. Burning out, slaying the bad. It's painful. It's a good pain. Isn't that right, Larry? You lady right here.
Well, I was just relating to what...
Sorry to keep you waiting so
That's
long.
okay. This young lady was saying...
You can sit down in Maryland, thank you.
I was raised in the Episcopal Church, which is a lot like the Catholic, and until I found you and I started seeing all the things about the religion that were just nothing was happening. It wasn't fulfilling me from within. So I've been listening to you a little over 10 years now, and I came out of the church. And then I heard this other pastor, and what the things that he was saying were really good. So I started going to church again, thinking that maybe this is what I needed too.
That's where you made a mistake.
Right, but see, the reason I even got into the church is because I felt another level. I had a relationship with my ex-husband that I should never have had, and I fell to the pits of hell like I had never seen.
And you went to the church for comfort.
I went to the church for comfort.
For comfort.
And it's been...
Churches are not supposed to comfort you. The love is not coming from the world. They're supposed to rebuke you.
That's right.
To repentance. See, that's what love is all about. But of course, the liberal type mentality, if you pardon the political flavoring to it, that mentality is always serpent-like, and will rise to the occasion of. They'll always comfort you in your fall. They become the God. If they can be your comforter, what is the Holy Spirit but a comforter? But there's a comforter from the other side too. And it robs you of the comforter from within.
I was just thinking every time I would come from church, I'd have this feeling of feeling so good and thinking I was doing everything so right and getting into the Bible. But then as I would still listen to you.
You were getting into a Bible.
Yeah, I was, yeah. And I would listen to you, but something from inside me, because what you had taught me had rooted me so deeply within. But I felt like I was getting like a veneer of paint.
With the church?
Yeah, with the church.
That's all
And
it is.
it's starting to wear off now. It's been about a year. And I'm starting to see this isn't it, because I'm getting to the point where I'm losing something now. I felt like I was getting something, but I feel I've been having dreams lately, and I usually don't dream. And it's like something of value is being like stripped away from me.
False value.
False value.
You're
But
dying, and you're dying, and you're being born again, because unless you lay down those things that are supportive to the ego, the phony righteousness, phony religion, the phonyized Christian teachings, not.
But it was a little bit further than that, because what I saw is that it was something that I thought was of value. But the thing about it was, in the dream, I didn't even know, wasn't even aware that this was being taken away from me. When I go to church, I feel so good. I'm not aware until, like I've come away, that I'm being stripped.
Oh, yes, what you're saying is that every high is a new low.
Yeah.
And that when you're getting love, you're really giving something of yourself for it.
I'm losing
You're giving something of your soul
That's
in
right.
exchange for this illusion.
That's right.
That's what you're talking about,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
And then in other words, there's something flowing out of you, which is your life, your
Yes,
soul.
exactly.
Something comes into you, which is the illusion that you are a person that you are not.
That's right.
And in order to hold on to this illusion and not to feel the guilt of the light breaking this down, without that love, if you didn't go back to church or didn't go back to your drink, you'd feel like your whole life is starting to collapse.
I feel guilty if I don't go.
But you need to feel that guilt.
I'm getting to the point now where
You don't mind the guilt.
No, I don't mind it
It's
now.
it's a purging guilt.
Right.
See?
Exactly.
You're getting.
I'm such an orphan.
Pardon?
Don't you feel like I'm going through a period of feeling like a terrible orphan? You know, like nobody is one thing to say nobody loves you, but it's like when I'm standing there saying, I don't know what love is. My whole life is now in
No.
scraps.
You do not know what love is. You have learned what love is not, and therefore you cannot accept it anymore. You have learned that the lie lies even when it loves. That love is a lie, and that the comfort of the world makes you God's enemy. That's the reason why you've got conscience. When you give up the love, it's like giving up drink. You discover the truth that it wasn't love. And until you're willing to realize, stand there with egg on your face, with this little pain, and not deny the truth that says this love lies. That's what the truth is saying to you, and it's saying to you in terms of pain. Now, conscience is like a language. You see, you've known the language of the world. We all have the language of the world in us, don't we? The kind of loves and the self-deceptions. But the language of conscience is a very special language, and we never will become acquainted to it until we sit still and listen to it, and let it trickle down into us. And it will take our pain away. Slowly, but it will change and transform our lives. Simply by realizing, hey, the lie lies. Those guys are not giving me love, they're giving me sex. The church is all phony, they're just comforting my ego. You know, what a fool I am. Well, when you start to wake up and the blinders come off and you find yourself standing on the edge of a precipice where you would have taken the next step with the blinkers on, do you have to say to yourself, don't take the next step? The fact that you see makes you not take the next step. How can you involve yourself with someone who's about to fleece you when you know they're going to fleece you? You would have involved yourself in somebody who would have fleeced you if you thought that they were being helpful. So when you see through the con, you can't do it anymore. But be careful, don't hate what you see. Just see it calmly and be grateful. The bad can't happen to you anymore. Yes?
Since we're on the subject of salvation tonight, periodically, sometime I just visit a church or whatever, I seem to still have a little bit of
churchianity left.
Yes, and feeling a little bit of guilt when communion is ever being served. Should we, I would just like
you still have this hankering to go after the wafer.
Comments on taking of communion, where Christ said...
you're a chameleon taking the communion.
No, I don't take it, but I feel guilty sometimes for not...
that's what it is, really.
Taking it. So do you say that communion is, even though Christ, the scripture teaches that we should take of communion, and
there are no church services in the scripture.
No.
There are none of the trappings and the ceremonies, and there isn't any of the doctrines. You cannot find doctrine in the New Testament. Not one single something that they call Trinity and doctrine. You must never allow anyone to interpret the Bible for you. It's a very private experience. They can't interpret meaning for you. Only the Spirit within you can make you understand what's on that page when you're ready to understand. And what is more, that understanding is especially for you. And you can't say, hey, look what I found. They know what you're talking about.
Right.
You can't give a lecture on what you found. Nobody knows what you're talking about. What you just discover is for you. You're stuck with it. See? And you can be grateful for it. And the secretness of it is the magic of it becoming you. You can't share it with anyone. Because if they agree with you, you've lost it. If they disagree with you, you've lost it. Because it must not have, what you discover must not have reinforcement by anybody. Because it wouldn't be faith if you needed someone to reinforce it. Is that right? How do you think Roy Masters became Roy Masters? How many people you think that I could talk to that would agree with me anyway? Or even understand what I'm saying? Not many. I've spent my whole life with people fighting me, what I am. But I simply knew what I knew, and that's all there was to it. Now the magical thing about that, not only am I able to write, read and understand, and read more into what I just read, and read more into what I just read that I read, and I could read the same lines for 100 years, and each time I read that same line, after a week or so, a month goes by, my understanding and consciousness is so raised that I see more in the same phrase. But if I let a human agency guide me in this, it couldn't happen, because it's the Spirit that leads. It says in the Scripture that you need not any man to teach you. The time is coming, saith the Lord, that not every man shall say to his brother anymore, know the Lord. Well, I shall be in their hearts. I shall write the laws on their hearts. In their minds I shall inscribe them. And I shall be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall sin no more, or something like that. See, but the Bible also says that God doesn't dwell in a house made by hands. Well, we sort of overlook that. We forget that. But indeed, God is looking for people not to worship in this synagogue or on that mountain, but in spirit and in truth, right? Within ourselves, we are the temple of the living God. You don't have to go any further. I'm telling you, you don't need to be inundated with all these interpretations. You go crazy. What you're looking for really is acceptance for your ego. You want to belong to something. Or you want to belong to church because maybe you can make out with the pastor or something, or find a man. You're looking for business. You're looking for camaraderie. But the Christian is a loner. The true Christian is a person who stands alone, like the warriors of Africa, who go out and find their manhood by killing a lion all by themselves and surviving in the wilderness. And then they come back to be accepted by the tribe. A lot of truth to that. You have to go out in the world and you have to make it on your own, not supported by anyone, not comforted by anyone, braving the trials and loneliness and finding your character. But you're not going to be able to find it holding hands in a church and singing songs and making each other feel all nice and toasty. Is that right or not? See, and I'm trying to tell you what isn't salvation, because when you see whatever isn't salvation, that's not it, that's not it. See, I keep saying that's not it. See, and pretty soon I'll show you that nothing is it. And that's it. When you can see that nothing is it, that's it. It's the truth showing that's it. All right. That's another half an hour went by. It sure goes by quickly, doesn't it? Better than the evening news. That seems to drag. Besides, there's no truth in it. I have a radio program in Los Angeles. Los Angeles listeners can tune in. It's 870 on the dial, 9 a.m. every Monday through Friday. And other parts of the country we have radio programs. So wherever you are, give us a call or drop us a line and we'll let you know where you can hear us on radio. Okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to this program and supporting it. And supporting it is very important. After all, this is like a church. Forsake ye not your gathering of yourselves together, you know. For where two more are gathered together, there am I in the midst of you. In the sense, this is like a church. But look how, I'm not preachy. Yes, I'm leading the congregation. But could you lead each other this way? Look how I'm keeping you on track. Aren't I keeping you on track? And tweaking your conscience. Making you aware of things that you've always known, but have always doubted. The world will make you doubt it. But these things you've always known in your heart. And don't ever accept anything that I say that you don't recognize instantly. Don't accept anything. If you recognize it, accept it. Otherwise, if you don't understand, wait till you do. Thanks for listening, and support our program. It's very important. And join us in our next program.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, in the beginning, hello, I'm Roy Masters, but in the beginning of these series of programs, I asked the question and refused to answer it. You know, do you need Christ to save you? I mean, do you need to believe in him? Well, I'm a nice Jewish boy. And, of course, Jesus was a nice Jewish boy too. And, but how can I come to accept Jesus, which I do, but it wasn't because of the examples of the Christians that I accepted him. I mean, they made it very difficult for me to accept him. If anything, they would sort of, well, discourage me from wanting to be a Christian, because I see nothing else but cruelty and insanity, for the most part, in people who represented themselves as followers. How on earth did I come to such a belief in spite of the evidence around me and the cruelty and the hypocrisy which would dissuade a person, you know, a Jewish person makes it very difficult. Jewish people are not very, well, Christ-believing, to say the least. The Jewish girl doesn't marry a non-Jewish boy and vice versa. So, you know, you mention the Jesus in the Jewish household and they stop up their ears. It's like a dirty word. And so now how did I get to do that in spite of all that? My training, my conditioning, so to speak, it's because I love the truth. And if I was born in Timbuktu, in the middle of Brazil somewhere, as a blowpipe throwing Indian, blowing Indian, I wouldn't need the Bible, because all I would have to do is want to know the truth, really sincere. After all, I was, in a sense, born into a savage society. You know, and hypocrisy is much worse than not having truth at all, because it dissuades you from the very truth that could save you, right? That's the problem with our society. If there was no religion in it, I think we'd be better off. We might find by our own searching. By its absence, we would find what we lacked. We're better off in a prison cell, aren't we, Larry? You know, all by yourself, stripped from all of your pleasures and the women and the drink and the booze, and suffering in that hell, all by yourself, because it makes you cry. It makes you draw down from above because you can't get it from below. You can't satiate your senses with your old kind of sensual gratifications. It leaves you with the pain. And as Larry said, the best thing that ever happened to him was going to jail. I've had people say, I've lost my legs, I've lost my eyes, but the best thing that happened to me, otherwise I would have lost my soul. Something had to stop me. Something had to hold me. Something had to let me sit still for a moment to experience reality, let it catch up with me. That's what I'm teaching in the meditation, by the way. However, I don't think I'm going to make the point this evening that do you have to believe in Jesus? But the thing is, I was like a little embryo, a little baby just born. Meh, mommy. Meh. It wasn't even mummy, you know. And I cry and I get diapered. I don't know I'm being diapered. All of us, I don't even know I'm wet. I don't even know that I'm uncomfortable because I don't even know it from Gurnished from right away. But all I know is I cry and I drink, and I cry and I'm dry. You know what I mean? And then for a little while but each time I cry and something comes. I don't see it, but I'm growing. It's nurturing me. And that is the state of our minds when we are hungering and thirsting after righteousness, because we are filled. See that? There's a scripture again. Simple. And one day, as we get nurtured, and as the soul begins to be made over in the nurturing of that love, then what happens? We open our eyes, we read a scripture, and say, oh yeah, that's who's been doing this. Like a child says daddy or mummy when he opens his eyes and sees his parent for the first time. He doesn't really see them that well, right? but he learns that's daddy and that's mummy, and after a while he learns what mother does and what the father does, and he starts to become very, very aware, but only as a result of mother and father being there for them. Now I think very much is the same way that you don't have to accept Jesus Christ right away. As he said himself, you only have to hunger and thirst after righteousness. And those who hunger and thirst after righteousness will not hunger and thirst after drink. The evidence that you are hungering and thirsting after righteousness is that you lose interest in drink. You lose interest in the things that they become boring. You know, maybe all your life you've been sexing and doing all kinds of lurid and exciting and stimulating sensuous things, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you think, oh, that was groovy. One morning you wake up and suddenly you're distant. You're objective. It doesn't look that good anymore for some reason. You say, what the hell am I doing this for? Something's changed. But it only changes in the kind of person who really, deep down inside himself, embryonically, loves the truth. He's being nurtured. He doesn't know it. Even in the midst of his suffering, in the midst of his sins, there's something not quite content and is crying. And the Father is recognizing that cry. It's going to the Father and coming from the Father. And the Father is beginning to dwell in him. Just like I've said before, the same relationship you have with flowing into the world and the world flowing in you and you getting identity from the world and surrendering for the sake of the nurturing of the world love, which causes conflict with the spiritual truths, you know, the Heavenly Father. But the same thing's happening within. You don't know it, but it started a long time ago. It started for me a long, long time ago. And then pretty soon, when I open the Scripture, and my eyes fall, I've learned to read, I've learned to reason, I've learned to listen to my insight and my common sense, and my inner character is beginning to flow and bloom. Now, I can recognize who that is. Hey, that's him. What do you know, Joe? Right? Got the idea? Because how do you know Jesus is Jesus if someone just said, he's him? Somebody could have said, Hitler's him. How do you know? There's got to be something in you that recognizes the linear, the Scripture, the linear man, the historical man. There's got to be something in him in the present that recognizes you, him in the past. You follow what I'm saying? The gentleman here first, though. Go ahead.
Just two quick things, Roy. I think in the last program you said, you spoke about some getting caught up with you, which I'm convinced is a fact. It does happen. I've known of the foundation for a long time and listened.
I know, you're the Vietnam vet.
Right. And I think I've met a lot of people right here at the Foundation of Human Understanding.
And I've always rejected you.
I think in my case you went overboard.
Yeah. You tried to get me involved with you, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You tried your clever speech and your little naggy, pressury ways.
I'm a desperate man, but you're not the only one I've tried to get involved
But you couldn't get me involved, could you?
No, I just have never become convinced that a Christian must be a loner.
Yeah, well, he must be a loner.
Okay, well,
you must be a loner for a while. Because you can't become a man holding somebody's hands. You just can't. You can't do it. You don't want these support groups. You don't want to be mothered to death.
Nurture?
Yes, that is what you need to be saved from. A support group, external nurturing. You've got to pull away from it and say, just 1 minute, one cotton picking minute. This is not, yes.
You just described my life. I've always pulled away from friends, but I was always a leader, the president of this, the president of that. But I was so destroyed at home. My father was always drunk. My mother was always sick. But talking about being alone, I know that somewhere in me that does apply to being a Christian because I'm also Jewish.
You are?
But all through school, all through school, I always stood by myself, and I didn't want those particular friendships. God blessed me with average looks. Otherwise, I'd probably be dead. If I had to deal
average
with
looks, I don't agree with you. You're looking for confidence, you're not going to get it from here. You look pretty ugly to me. That'll pull away a lot of support.
I have to play this for my mom.
She thinks you're wonderful, right?
No more.
You got a face only your mother could love. You better come out of that illusion. He thinks he's average. See what a good nature he has. All right. Are you out of that illusion now?
But you once said you weren't always that ugly. I found a picture of me as a little kid, and I had hair, and I was robust, and I was a beautiful child.
I know, because
objectively.
You see, what happens to you when...
And look at this.
If you look at him, he's wimpy looking. Yeah, and he's a typical psychotic person who's been sucked out. His life has been sucked out, and something, the replica of whatever's done it to you has been put in.
That makes me very upset that my ego wants to just,
It would tear at me.
Yes.
Be honest about it. Are you angry with me right now?
Yes, because it reminds me in a way of my
I'm
mother
not being
says,
mean, am I?
No, but I see that same fight I have with my mother. She says, you're not working. Get a job. And I see...
But she's robbed you. She's robbed you of it. You have been so caught up with the fixation to your mother and the struggle to be yourself.
Can I ever be myself?
Well, you're so burned out you can't work. And when you can't work, you become dependent on your parents. When you become dependent on the love of your parents, you're more of your parents and less of yourself. And you're more rebellious trying to be yourself, and the struggle burns you out and then your mother says work, and then you can't work, and you hate her. And she's taken all your motivation to work and then motivates you to work.
What the hell do I do?
Not resent it. Well, do you live with your mother?
No.
Thank God.
Well, 28. I lived there until I was 28 years old.
How old are you now?
35.
Well, it's best not to go to see her too much.
Right, keep away from it.
Stay away from that woman for a while. Telephone call once in a while. Otherwise...
I tried it, but I do it in the wrong way.
Well, then don't do it at all for a while. You got to get free from that conditioning. Yeah. Now, we're getting a little off the subject, but yes.
Yeah, I had God reveal himself to me over 10 years ago, and then when that happened, I said to myself, well, the Bible's a book that it demonstrates what God is. Was the revelation that came to me. I mean, Jesus reveals what God is, that pure love, there's no obligation, there is no ego, no pride, it's in all that, and it's clothed with humility, and it doesn't seek its own, and all. I mean, it was like a ton of knowledge, and I know that what you speak of is true. It's because I know it, and there's no there can't be any emotion.
No, you accept it very... will you stand up, please, because they're sure. All it is getting the top of your head.
Oh, okay. But there's one thing I'm confused about because of my own personal interest, the emotion of... There must be at some point in time, I know Jesus had a little bit of emotion there on the cross, but the Christian singers, the ones that sang and the tears are coming and so forth, if that is coming from the right place, and what I mean by that is, if it says, I'm really hurting for you because you don't know the truth. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
you don't want to tell you what you're going to do. It's very simple. Take all of that horse manure, take the whole emotional singing binges, and take them and put them in the nearest toilet.
All right.
And forget all about that pantomime and that theatrics. That has nothing to do with Christianity. That is simply nothing else but theater. And emotions to get you emotionally involved and making you feel sorry and repentant and getting you feel comforted and making you grateful to the comforters, and pretty soon you're into a cult.
Because
is that right?
Each service that I went to before they even
Stand up, please.
before he even starts with the message, everybody's sitting there half falling asleep. In fact, he has to tell people to stand up during the message sometimes. But it's like pumping you up, getting your heart going, getting everything
Not
going.
healthy.
Like rah rah, let's go. And otherwise, I mean, everybody's like dead in their seats. And I think they know that they have to do that to get you receptive. Otherwise,
they have to open your senses.
to open you.
They have to create the emotion. They have to create the drama, because the message is all external, and the life is external, and the salvation is external, because it's not real. It's dependent upon the manipulator and the motivator. But I'm asking you to do just the opposite, to be very quiet and still and objective, because the pathway to the light and the way to the truth is not through emotional evangelism. It's not through sing-songs and pantomime and drama. It is through quietness.
Because it's just like the cocaine and the drink that you were talking about that opens you up, your senses up to to take in whatever is there, to experience
That's
it more.
right.
It's the same thing.
Same
as
thing
that.
with
It's
the
no
church.
different. It's no different.
They open you up to receive the message. That's why. You know, when I see the churches with the boogie woogieing down the aisle, this doesn't can't believe that people. But they feel alive. They feel alive from that. They feel glorified.
Should
Yes.
emotion exist? Or
No, not absolutely.
That's what
You must be dispassionate. You must learn to find a flow of life that comes through no emotions, no hate, no love. See, because all hate and love is of ego and pride, and it opens you to sensuality, it opens you to that which is in the world, you know.
no emotion. But when they do come, it's how we deal with
That's right.
that is what's important, right?
You see the whole, but once you find the essence of what salvation is, which we are talking about this evening, you'll find this ability to learn. Always watching yourself. You're always learning, always disciplining yourself in not reacting to pressures and stress and offerings and compliments. People knocking. There's a part in the lost books of the Bible says, if any man compliments you, praises you like a holy man, do not be exalted. This is the essence of it. If any man degrade you, don't be bummed out. He didn't quite say it that way. Because this evenness, through this evenness, the inner mind is opened and the senses are closed and you receive the fullness of God. Yes, sir.
Roy, I've come 1,300 miles to ask you something. I think a lot of it you've answered. But I had parents who sort of burned me out on school, grade pressure. And 23 years ago, I went to law school and failed the bar exam. I was going through marriage problems, and I've always wanted to take the bar.
Has this got to do with salvation?
I think it does, because I identify with him, and I'm asking you, what do you do if you are burned out? The way the discussion left it sort of was, you said you could reach a point where there's no hope of salvation.
Well, wait a minute. What's that got to do with law school? I mean, the law school, we're talking about a different subject, unless it has to do with the subject. Somehow you could sort of dovetail that in.
Am I mistaken? I identify my failure to pass the bar exam and my frustration at it with my personal salvation.
Oh yes. In other words, you think, yeah, well, everybody has the problem. This is a problem. When you have failed to be a person, and ever since you're born, the system sets you up to become successful, and some people react to the temptation to become something. That's the big mistake. That's the original sin. In the Garden of Eden, there was this scene when paradise was lost. You can be what you want to be, and you can have all you have to do is eat this fruit, and you can forget you're just a creation. You can become a creator, and knowledge is power, and knowledge you'll be somebody. See, now that is the flaw in our nature. It's called pridefulness, and the lie says, through knowledge, you become a good doctor, you become a good lawyer, you become good at something, then you're a good person. It is always the substitute for failing, to being good at something, and to be praised for it, and to be glorified in it. Everybody's looking for recognition through their skills, through being maestro, the greatest pianist, the greatest physician, the greatest artist, the greatest something or other, and to be admired for one's skill. But the trouble is that the self, that is the accomplished self, which depends on accolades of praise, right, is not the true self.
What's that mean?
Well, in other words, the self that is a good doctor, that is recognized. In other words, if you're a good doctor and you're recognized as a good doctor, it's like being good. And that's like being, as long as you keep accomplishing, you get gooder. And that's like progress. And so therefore, after a while, you have to accomplish and accomplish and accomplish and accomplish more and more, and this will burn you out, even if you're a success. But if you're a failure, and somehow you got a block to it, and you try hard to become a success, through being a success. You try hard to become good at something in order to be, because you think that's your salvation. You're barking up the wrong tree. It's the wrong reason to be a good lawyer, as if being a good lawyer would make you a good person. There's nothing wrong with being a good lawyer, a baker, a candlestick maker, but it has nothing to do with being a good person. It may have a little bit to do with it, but it can't. Your whole salvation, the idea of who you are, and the ultimate salvation can't rest upon being a good lawyer, because after all, it's simply an illusion which has its roots in the acceptance of the world, and that has nothing to do. You're working for approval. It's an ego thing, and you're going to be burned out one way or the other. The more you struggle, the more you create. The more you struggle, the more you create a conflict over your struggle.
Is there a place for healthy self-esteem, or is there such a thing? I mean, I feel
No, there's
the
no-
heck with the world. I'd like to pass the bar. I'd feel good about myself.
No, I think perhaps in your case you need to forget the bar, because it'll drive you to a bar. If I were you, drop the whole idea about becoming a lawyer in order to become a saved, worthwhile person, because you're barking up the wrong tree, and it's a good thing you never succeeded. Because you might have, but if you had succeeded, you might have become a great lawyer, and it felt so full of conflict for the greatness that wasn't great. After, look how much time you can spend being great, how much time you spend cultivating your intellect and your cleverness and your skills like a trapeze artist, but it serves no purpose at all. It goes against the purpose. You spend all that time being a phony when you could have spent the same time being real. You only have so much time on this earth. You can't spend your time building a phony. You could spend you only have a certain amount of time to build the real. So therefore, no wonder people, when they become successful attorneys with a lot of money, that the conflict is as much great in being a success as it is not being able to make the success. But struggle.
I had the opposite problem. I went into radio, I went into the movie business and got a few parts, and there was nothing there.
Yes.
And I felt
But
like
he hasn't
nobody.
learned there's nothing there.
Yeah.
He hasn't learned this. He keeps thinking it is.
Yeah.
See, it would be, you say it's for some people, like people in India, they're very poor, most of them are so poor, and people in America, we have quite a bit here. Even the poorest are richer than the people in India. There's only one, the reason why the Indians go on and they survive is because most of the Indians over there, they never will have anything, and they never can aspire into anything, so that they can't realize having something is nothing. They can go on hoping, and believing and dreaming, but they can never discover the truth that Americans have discovered, that having something is a big lie. And once having got those things and being dissatisfied them, we can go on to something better. See what I'm saying? Who understands what I'm saying? Now, so in a sense, for some of us, it works that way. You see?
That doesn't mean you shouldn't have anything.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't have anything, but we also, for instance, Roy Masters has everything he wants. I'm not rich, you understand, but I have a decent house, nothing special, and I got a nice car, nothing special, but I've got the things I want. So what more? I discovered now, I thought those things were something. I as a young person, I think, well, we should have those things. And I worked towards them, and that was a certain goal. And I worked towards them in an honorable way, you understand, and that's the link, to work towards those material things in a totally honorable way. Because if you get them in a dishonorable way, when you achieve them, they cause guilt and great pain. And then you throw all those things away as if the things were the problem, when they're not. And then you're without things again. And it starts all over again. You go to the opposite. Well, if having things make me guilty, maybe if I don't have things, maybe that will make me innocent. That doesn't wash either. You get caught up in a crazy yin-yang pendulum. So now I'm saying, perfectly honorable. Get the things in the way of the good Lord by living according to your principles and totally one step in front of the other with honor and grace and fairness in your dealings, and slowly and wisdom in your judgments, and you accomplish those things, and then when you get them, you're comfortable with them, but then you're right above you're right at the pinnacle of you're tippy-toeing over the top, and you're seeing something beyond that. And now since you are successful and you've got those things, but yet it's not what you thought it was, you're able to see the beyond. And you'll be able to attain to the beyond because you're no longer preoccupied with having more and more and more, which never satisfies. You've got the more, which satisfies, and now you're on to the next leg of your journey. You've got the wrinkles out of your belly in the right way, if you pardon the way I said that. And you've got the things which satisfy in a satisfying way, but you realize then there's more to life than that. And you usually have the leisure time because you're a businessman, you've saved, you've been wise, you've been frugal, you developed your character. You don't have to work so hard. And so therefore not working hard is like retiring, and it is the seat of, well, it's the basis of philosophy. When you have leisure time to think and chew the cud and see, that's how you discover the truth, by setting your house in order, but in right and just dealings with people. That's why I said to Susan, get your life straightened out because you're not going to make it. You've got to put one foot in front of the other. Anyway, I didn't complete my whole idea on salvation, but that's all we got going for this week. I mean, we did 5 segments and we could have gone for another 5. My ideas of salvation and Jesus are yet to be put in speech. But tune in next week if we're still here, and maybe you'll get a good eyeful then. Thank you very much for listening to me and putting up with my nonsense. And if you don't think it's nonsense, or if you like my nonsense, support it so you can hear more. And that's the way the foundation works. You like what I say, you get value, your life starts to change. Help us to continue that service to you and others. Thanks for listening, and join us again.